Chapter 2. The Lens of Memory. The loft exhaled as the crew trickled out, their chatter fading into the Atlanta night, leaving behind a hush that clung like damp silk. Crimson light softened to a dim glow, the silk sheets still strewn across the floor, a battlefield of shadows and sheen. Zephyra lingered on the chaise, her skin warm from the shoot, her breath steadying as the adrenaline ebbed. The coal locket rested against her chest, its cool weight a quiet anchor, unnoticed by the hands that had adjusted lights and lenses around her. She stretched, the silk slipping from her thigh, and let her almond-shaped eyes, dark chocolate, molten, drift to the man who hadn't left. Liam Spencer stood by the tripod, rugged as ever, his salt and pepper beard catching the faint light, his broad shoulders taut under a faded black shirt. The photographer from the shoot had handed over the reins with a nod. "You've got this, Spence." And now it was just them, the loft shrinking under his presence. His voice rolled out, low and commanding, a gravel that stirred her pulse. "Stay there, Zeph. Let's try something." He ditched the crew's bustle, dimming the lights further until the room was a cocoon of shadow and suggestion, then lifted the camera, a vintage beast, all metal and glass, and aimed it at her. She shifted, bare shoulders catching the glow, her gaze meeting his through the lens. "Something new?" she asked, her tone sultry, a dare wrapped in velvet. He didn't answer, not with words, just a tilt of his head, a flicker in his hazel eyes that stripped her bare, in ways the shoot never had. "Recline," he said, and she did, silk pooling at her hips, her back arching just enough to blur the line between art and intimacy. The shutter snapped, a soft click that echoed in the stillness, and he murmured, "You've never been more beautiful." The words landed like a touch, heat blooming under her skin. She felt exposed yet powerful under his gaze, the lens a mirror to a past that flooded back unbidden. 2 years ago, his studio, her laughter, their bodies tangled on a cot between shots, a passionate affair, all fire and fleeting promises, snuffed out by his wanderlust and her ambition. He'd left for a gig in Paris. She'd stayed to build her crown. Now, here he was, his quiet intensity a tether pulling at her independence, her carefully forged armor. "Hold that," he said, stepping closer, the camera lowering. His fingers brushed her neck, rough, calloused, adjusting the coal locket that had slipped askew. Their eyes locked, desire crackling in the space between, unspoken but palpable, a current that hummed beneath her skin. She caught his scent, leather and faint tobacco, and her breath hitched, memories of his hands mapping her curves rising like smoke. "Liam," she whispered, her voice a thread of warning, of want, but he only smiled, faint and knowing, stepping back to snap another shot. The silence stretched, thick with what they wouldn't say. She reclined further, silk whispering against her thighs, her vulnerability raw in the dimness. He'd always seen her, beyond the poses, the persona, and that scared her most. At 28, she'd built a life on self-reliance, on owning her narrative, not bending to anyone's lens. Yet here he was, stirring a pull she'd buried, a longing that clashed with the freedom she'd fought for. The shutter clicked again, and she wondered if he captured that too, the flicker of doubt beneath her poise, the hunger she wouldn't name. "Got something in mind?" he said finally, lowering the camera, his voice a rumble that settled in her bones. "A project, unveiled, you and me." He didn't elaborate, just let the word hang, a seed planted in the quiet. She tilted her head, crimson lips curving, her mind spinning. Collaboration, temptation, a chance to redefine what they'd lost. "Tell me more," she said, but he shook his head, that faint smile tugging at her. "Later. Just think on it." The loft seemed to hold its breath as he packed up, his movements deliberate, leaving her with the weight of his touch, his words, his gaze. She rose, silk trailing behind her, the coal locket swaying heavier now, a pendulum ticking between past and possibility. Liam glanced back from the door, hazel eyes glinting. "See you soon, Zeph." And then he was gone, the night swallowing him, leaving her alone with the echo of his lens and the memory of what they'd been, what they might still be.